In the heart of the state-of-the-art, at the dawn of the next stage in entertainment, you found No Proscenium.
You have indeed found No Proscenium, the voice of everything immersive. I'm your host, Noah Nelson. This week on the show, we've got a good old-fashioned New York City immersive theater double feature show. First up, Cynthia von Buhler, the creator of the Illuminati Ball, will swing through to tell us about the return of the Storied event to NYC this April. Then, running currently in the Big Apple, is Bottom of the Ocean, and its creator Andrew Hoepfner will be here to tell us all about that. It's been a minute since we talked to Andrew, so it's going to be great to catch up with him. And indeed, these are two really great interviews all in one episode of NoPro. We've also got your headlines coming up in a moment, but before we do that, a couple of pieces of business. First off, I want to thank our new backer, Kristen Backor, who has a perfect name to be a Patreon backer. And I also want to thank our new sustaining backer, Chris Woolman. Always humbled when anyone jumps in at the sustaining level. It always shocks me. And Chris has been part of the LA immersive theater scene for some time now. And so it's a real honor to have someone who's been at this for a long time throw their hat into being in the sustaining group here at NoPro. Patreon.com/NoProscenium. This is how we do it. This is how we make it all happen. Hopefully at some point we'll have some bigger sponsors as well. But right now it's you. And we need your support. So thank you so much to Chris. Thank you to Kristen. And to everyone. More shout outs at the end of the show. That's not all I've got to tell you though. Hope you didn't fast forward, because we've got March events. We have events happening this month here at NoPro. We're getting back in the swing of things. Coming up first, the NoPro Book Club. That's coming up on the Ides of March, better known as March 15th, for those of you who don't know your Julius Caesar, as it were. That's going to be happening in our Discord. The topic this month is Snow Crash, the seminal cyberpunk book where the term metaverse comes from. You can hang out with the review crew on the 15th. They're in the Discord. RSVP to secure your spot, or I guess let them know you're coming, really. That is followed up by our DIY Publicity 101 seminar for immersive creators. It's a mouthful, which goes on sale today. That's going to be happening on the 21st. We have 2 sessions that Monday with times set for folks on both coasts and discounts for NoPro Patreon backers, which we mentioned a moment ago. So check that out. Again, that's going on sale today. Hopefully the link's already live by the time you hear this. I don't know, Noah. Is it live? I don't know. Tomorrow, Noah. Yesterday, Noah? Anyway, you know how this works. Then on the 24th, Tara Okan, performer, experiential designer, and transformation coach, who many of you know from her collaborations with Third Rail Projects, will be taking part in an AMA, that's Ask Me Anything, for those who don't speak Reddit, in our Discord. The text queue will open up on the 21st, or you can hop into the voice chat session on the day of. Links to all of these can be found in the show notes and in the new events page at the NoPro site. Speaking of sites, the Everything Immersive got itself a little upgrade. The search engine has now, we've gotten categories and tags back in the mix. So now, in addition to all the curated collections that we are putting together on the front page there for you to browse through if you're a browser, if you are a search person, not only can you search by location, not only can you check out all the stuff that's online, and if you know the name of the show, or if you know the name of the company of the show, you can search by that. But if you're just kind of being all, hey, you know what? I want a comedy, or I'm looking for some horror, or hey, you know what? Show me all the escape rooms that you got listed in here right now. You can do all that from the search bar now at everythingimmersive.com. And if you are a creator looking to connect with our audience and others, highly recommend that you post your work there at EI. All right. That is it for all the announcements. And now, here's Catherine with your headlines.
This is Catherine Yu, Executive Editor of NoPro. Here's what's in your immersive headlines for March 4th, 2022. The response to Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser has been flooding social media feeds of the immersively minded for the last week or so. The New York Times described the experience as equal parts luxury hotel, interactive theater, theme park ride, food as entertainment, digital scavenger hunt, and role-playing game. CNET's Bridget Carey described it as a, quote, living video game with multiple story paths, end quote, while Forbes noticed that it isn't a, quote, hotel, but immersive theater filled with technology, end quote. Reactions have been all over the spectrum, from reporters saying they've been overwhelmed by their packed schedules to rave reviews about the immersive experience, as long as you are game to play along and don't mind a lack of downtime. But perhaps the most heartwarming review came from Brooke McDonald, who brought her family, including her 2 sons, on board. The 2 children, when it came time to depart the Halcyon, began weeping, as did McDonald herself. She also wrote this about the experience, quote, "As I hid with my 5-year-old behind a stack of crates to see what his big brother and Sammy, the ship mechanic, were up to, I forgot all about Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Leia, because this time it was our story," end quote. And you can find the rest of Brooke McDonald's review on simplemost.com. The Void, that's right, the formerly bankrupt location-based VR company known for projects like Star Wars Secrets of the Empire and Avengers Damage Control, appears to be back with a brand new website. The company now promises, quote, upgraded VR technology, end quote, for, quote, longer, more deeply immersive experiences, end quote. And the newly resurrected Void also appears to be hiring for software engineers in Utah. Last fall, Protocol reported that a former Void investor had acquired assets of the defunct startup. Lastly, the Peabody Awards, that's right, the oldest and most prestigious awards honoring stories that matter in broadcast and streaming media, has said it will announce winners in its brand new category, Digital and Interactive Storytelling, on March 24. The inaugural round of awards will be given to legacy projects across gaming, interactive journalism, virtual reality, augmented reality, social video, interactive documentary, and transmedia storytelling. Stay tuned for more on that. These have been your immersive headlines.
The Illuminati Ball is a surrealist soiree that has appeared from out of the mists of imagination again and again over the years, and it returns to New York City this April 9th. The first ball was produced back in 2016 under the umbrella of the Speakeasy Dollhouse, and joining us is the creator of the Illuminati Ball and Speakeasy Dollhouse founder, the author, illustrator, performer, and producer, Cynthia Von Buhler. Cynthia, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me on.
This has been probably a long time coming for those who know, because you've been doing this for a hot minute. But for those who happen to be out of the loop on New York's vibrant immersive scene, what is the Illuminati Ball?
The Illuminati Ball is based off a party that the Baron and Baroness de Rothschild held in 1972. And they had a surrealist ball at their mansion right outside of Paris. And they invited, the guest of honor was Salvador Dali, and the theme was surrealism. So everybody was wearing these really interesting costumes, and it was just a really interesting night. And some of the photos were leaked, and my choreographer back in 2014, sent me pictures that she found. And she said, look at this party. This is so interesting. I would love to be invited to this party. We should do something like this. And I agreed with her. And looking at the pictures, the Baroness was wearing this stag head mask, and it had diamond tears. And it was just so beautiful and so interesting. And it made me think about the sadness of animals and the nature and climate change. And I really love animals. I do a lot of work with animals and rescue of animals. And so I thought, well, this would be a good opportunity maybe where I could do something that incorporated animals and a party, kind of weird, interesting, surrealist evening. And that's how we started.
When did you first start heading towards immersive theater? Like the Illuminati Ball is not the only production you have going at any given time. And what's been fascinating, particularly in the past few years, is not only do you have the immersive theater going, but you've gone and you've been doing a lot of graphic novels. You're doing comic books. You have a couple of series kind of running, often tied into immersive theater projects you're doing. There's a graphic novel of the Illuminati Ball. And so I'm kind of wondering, a little chicken the egg, like, this one, the ball, you saw that the ball, you knew to make something, you had already been doing immersive theater, but let's roll it all the way back to Speakeasy Dollhouse started off, you had a Kickstarter back in 2011. So like what led you into this space in the first place?
Well, actually I was in a band in Boston. I went to school. I went to college in Boston, art school, and I had a band called Woman of Sodom. And it was an all-female S&M band. And it was it was beloved in Boston. It was just very intense. And the stage show was very interactive. And we would bring the audience into it. So I had a background in doing, interactive, immersive theater already from doing that. And then on top of that, I used to throw outrageous parties at my house in Boston. And so it's sort of a combination of those two things. So I have a lot of confidence in being able to do that. And I love transmedia. So I love making art. It can be a book, it can be a painting, it can be an interactive painting, it could be a play, it could, all these things. So I've done all of those things. I have made interactive sculptures. And, so this sort of came naturally to me. So when I saw Sleep No More in 2011, I just love the sets. I'm also really love decorating and I love set design. And I just thought the sets were fantastic. And my husband was really obsessed with it. He kept wanting to go back and he really loved it. And I just really love the sets. I kind of ignored the rest of it. And I was really just sort of wandering through the sets. I'd look under the tables, try to see how they were doing it, where the sound was coming from. And so I said to him, he was just really loved it. And I said, oh, I could do this. And he said, no, you can't. And I said, are you kidding me? I could totally do this. This is right up my alley. And so that sort of inspired me to show him that I could do it. And at the time I was researching my grandfather's murder. He was murdered in 1935. He owned speakeasies and he was a bootlegger, and he was mysteriously murdered and no one knew why. My mother was born the day he died, which is very strange. So I was looking into that. So I thought, I had started researching it. I had seen Sleep No More. I was working on a book with Dollhouse sets for it because I was inspired by Frances Glessner Lee, who was a woman who did forensics, and she would make Dollhouse sets for the police to use, detectives to use to figure out crimes. So I had all of these things were happening at the same time. And then also Kickstarter was kind of becoming big. And I've been seeing a lot of friends do it. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. Crowdfunding and Sleep No More and Dollhouses and Speakeasy and my family. And it just sort of thought, oh, I'm going to make this into an immersive play. And it was going to be a one-night show. And we did it at Meyer Lansky's old Speakeasy down in the Lower East Side. It's actually called the Back Room. And it was just so successful and people so beloved that it just lasted for 5 years. We just kept doing it. And
that's dope.
Yeah, it was really interesting because it really, it helped me figure out my grandfather's mystery. And I'm still working on this book. Like I put out a graphic novel, a simple one in the beginning, but there's a whole story behind it. And I still haven't finished that. But yeah, it was sort of a combination of things. And then, other people became interested, a producer became interested, and then we partnered, and he wanted me to do another show. So I did one called The Brothers Booth at the Players Club. And that was about the the sibling rivalry between the two Booth brothers, Edwin Booth and John Wilkes Booth, who killed Abraham Lincoln. So we did that and for a while, and then I did Ziegfeld Midnight Frolic, which I did in this crazy secret Broadway theater, and it doesn't even have a door. You have to go through a diner to get into it, and it was the Liberty Theater is what it's called, and I did that there for almost a year, and and then then I thought, oh, my friend had my choreographer had mentioned this idea, and I thought, oh, this would make an interesting play, a little bit different, more modern, and that's where the Illuminati Ball came from. Wow, that's a long roundabout answer.
No, it's great. It's the full Irv, and I mean, and you can see like what's fun is like you can see there's
I forgot about I forgot about one. I forgot about the girl handcuffed Houdini, because that was another. Yeah, that was another one that we did. We did that in the Lower East Side, in a really interesting theater, St. Mark's Theater.
And I was going to dial in on that because like the girl who handcuffed Houdini, chicken and the egg question. Was it the graphic novel or was it the play that came first? Because it's a little hazy in my memory at the moment.
That one, the graphic novel came first, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember anymore. There's so many of them. I guess the last 10 years have been a blur of books and theater. I believe that they were kind of around the same time, because the book came out and around the same time. It was almost like a release party, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it takes a while to put it.
I had been working on the story in the book before the play.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a while to put a GN together, to say the least.
No, the opposite happened with the Illuminati Ball. Was a play before it was a book.
Mm.
And sometimes, it can help. I like having, one before the other. I really love doing the plays because I love watching what the actors do. And sometimes they bring something to the mix I wouldn't have thought of, or I use them as my models. I draw from them, how they interact. I think it just makes the books seem more, come alive.
Well, and with like the Illuminati Ball in particular, you've done the play and then you made a graphic novel out of it, influenced by, you've used the actors as models. Has the making of the graphic novel, has that then influenced the way like the next iteration of the ball goes?
Absolutely.
Has it refined things?
Absolutely. It's so interesting because it keeps growing. That's one thing that I really like about this kind of theater, is that you can keep improving. You can keep changing things. Something works, something doesn't work. Like in Speakeasy Dollhouse, we had one scene where my grandfather gets shot in an alley, and there was actually an alley in this venue, and we were doing it for a couple of years, and then once, I think it was Justin Moore, one of my actors, he suggested, let's do some kind of a freeze, where after he shoots him, everybody freezes, all the actors freeze, and then he can give a dialogue about what's going through his mind right before he dies. And I think that that's something that we wouldn't have done if I hadn't been doing it with the actors and trying different things. And it's and the same thing goes with the books. For example, with the Illuminati Ball, I have a whole storyline about, there's this one character, and it's about these hybrid human animal sort of creatures, which actually they're making now. I don't know if you've heard about the pigs. They're putting human DNA in pigs and then using their hearts as for humans, for organ transplant. It's really happening. With CRISPR technology, this stuff is really happening, and that's what's really interesting. But yeah, so she, originally when we were doing the play, she was not an animal-human hybrid. But then later on, when I was doing the book, I thought, oh, wouldn't that be interesting? She's a singer. What if her parents hired this scientist to alter her DNA when she was in the womb to make her be able to sing? Like that they wanted her to be an opera singer, but then she wanted to be a hip hop artist. So so then sometimes they'll, the book will influence the play, and sometimes the other way around.
In some of the work you've done over the years, there's definitely a running theme around sort of the underworld and noir.
Mm.
You've got that in Speakeasy, Dollhouse. You have that in The Girl Who Handcuffed Houdini and the other Minnie Woodcock
Hmm.
stories.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, the girl who electrified Tesla was the
yeah,
other. Yeah.
the noir and pulp and all these influences. What's the allure there?
Hmm.
Did that start as an aesthetic thing, or did it all start with your grandfather's case?
I think it was my grandfather's case was really I when I started doing Speakeasy Dollhouse, it really threw me into that time period, that sort of prohibition era, and I really love that period. I actually the way I personally look, I have, like a black bob with bow lips, and I just look like I come out of that period. So I just feel like that it just speaks to me. I really love that time period because it's a time when women started becoming more free. They started casting off their corsets and wearing short, bobbing their hair and wearing, uh, short skirts. And I think that it's a really interesting time in our history. And so I really am drawn to that. I'm also really drawn to the dark side of things. I find beauty in darkness, and it's just part of who I am. So it's just, and then with the storylines, I really love finding things when I'm watching a film or a movie. The other than the number one thing with watching something is you want to learn something about life. If I'm watching a film and I don't learn anything about life, I'm not interested. So I want to learn something about life. But I also really love when you're watching something and it makes you think, oh, this is so interesting. Could this actually be true? Is there truth to this? And then you go and Google and try to figure it out, and you're like, wow, that actually is true. And it's a way where you can add realism to the magic. And I'm really, as well as being a surrealist, I'm also a magic realist. And I really love having things that are magic, but then having them based in reality, so you can it makes the magic seem real. And that's a big part of everything I do. That there's these really weird, bizarre facts because they are based on real things. Everything I write, everything I do is based on some kind of reality. But then I add magic to them. But the reality and the truth of many of the details kind of makes the magic seem real. And don't we all want magic to be real?
It's always a way in which like magic is sort of like an emotional reality, right?
Yeah.
Like I think particularly when you get into like the sort of the psychomagical stuff, like if you roll out Jodorowsky's Way, or even just kind of dipping through the 20th century occult, it becomes pretty clear that these are, if nothing else, they're psychological landscapes, and they delineate human behavior even if they don't necessarily match up with physics or biochemistry, right?
Mm.
Like that's where I
Mm-hmm.
often think some of the potency of it all
Mm.
lies. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it tells the tale of the human heart, even
Exactly.
if even if you can't necessarily like you know pass through a wall by will alone, or whatever the magic power is. Like it feels that way, and thus
Exactly. And you know what? The thing I love about immersive theater is the portal. I feel
mm,
like every show I do needs some kind of a portal, whether that be a tiny little speakeasy dollhouse door. We used to make people climb through this little door so they felt like they were going into a different world, or, in the Liberty Theater, they were in a diner, but then they walk behind a curtain and there's a theater. And I think that it's not only is that sort of surreal and dreamlike, but it's also the portal is the entryway into a different world. It's almost like the rabbit hole when
mm.
you fall into it. And I think that that's something that we all love. It's just exciting and thrilling, and it's a big part of immersive theater is falling into that rabbit hole, like entering that portal into a different world outside of the world you're currently living in.
Yeah, like this sense that like that the other world's always just like two steps to the side, and if
Right,
you
it's
can
right behind
just
that mirror.
yeah,
If there's a way
like
of entering it through it,
yeah,
I find that interesting.
like you catch that other reality out of the corner of your eye, and really compelling immersive uh lets you catch it and then walk towards it and go in. And there's something like there's a real way in which like New York City is so advantaged as a playground for immersive, because when we're talking about speakeasies or like the 30s and that aesthetic and like standing
Hmm.
up a show, you have tons of spaces throughout Manhattan and Brooklyn and environs that you know
Hmm.
that's just when they were built. That's just when they were utilized. That they are
Mm.
that aesthetic, and the work can feel like it's animating the stories that were actually there. You know.
That's true. Actually, the venue is crucial. It's really important. I'm always looking for venues and looking for interesting places. And when you're in a city, it's when you find something special, like that secret Broadway theater that nobody knows exists, or you find some tunnel, or you find some secret speakeasy with a secret door. Or I think that is something that we all like. It's just so thrilling and exciting when you can find these places. And that's one thing that I really liked about Sleep No More. It was just this sort of massive world that was right in the middle of New York City, and it just felt very transporting.
Yeah, you walk for those who haven't been, and I'm assuming everyone who listens to the podcast has, but you walk up and here's this warehouse, and you're like, but I thought I was going to a hotel, and
Yeah.
that irony even of itself like helps to create that
And-
portal experience.
yeah, and I like this. Like, it's very surreal to be. It's almost dreamlike. You're be
Mm.
in a cemetery, and then all of a sudden you're in a forest, and I like that idea. It's when you're in a dream, you'll be in one room, and then you'll walk into another room, and you'll be in a forest, and that's what happens in your dreams, and that really appeals to me. Some people have said that my books are sometimes like fever dreams, and I don't know if
Oh,
that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I really like fever dreams.
yeah, I think it depends on like your relationship to fever dreams. Like I'm fine with them because like they're often like they're vivid and they're lurid. I mean, that's the thing. Like as an illustrator, like your work is just so lush, right? Like it's really
Thank
it's
you. Yeah,
absolutely stunning.
thank you.
I'm a big comics nerd, which some of the audience knows, and I admit, like, I knew you were an illustrator before I saw the first Mindy Woodcock comic,
Uh-huh.
and that thing like dropped into my lap, and I was kind of in shock. Like I didn't know you were that good, and also like storytelling in comics form is such a specific discipline. Sequential art isn't just make a pretty picture, and to
Mm,
be able to balance, you know, composition,
mhm,
illustration, and storytelling, um,
mhm,
that I mean, as a comics nerd, like that's the holy grail.
mhm.
As someone who tells stories in all these different mediums, do you have the same approach for breaking story when you're writing a play versus writing a graphic novel, or does transmedia creation require different angles of attack?
Hmm. I think it all kind of starts from the same place. I think of it all as different art, different ways of telling of storytelling, like you said. And I think it all starts. I have to say, I am an artist and a painter first. So I began with art. I've been making art since I was a child. I come from a very artistic family. I went to art school. I mean, I can paint and I can draw. I can do any type of art, any medium, any style, any time period, and I'm completely confident with that. So that's something that my skills as an artist, it's sort of a given. And but that's where I'm starting from. And then I went off into these other, I started making these interactive sculptures because I wanted the art to come alive. I wanted it to move. I wanted people to interact with it. I find that when people interact with art, they feel like it's theirs. They feel more
Mm.
like they're part of it and it's theirs. And everybody is kind of a little bit egotistical or self-absorbed. And so the way to get people to be more involved with your art and to teach them something and get them into it is to do that, to like bring them in and make them part of it. And that's something that I really love about immersive theater and about interactive art. So I know I went off on a tangent and I
No,
probably didn't answer
no,
your
no. That's
question.
but that was beautiful because I mean, we're often chasing like what is the value of this medium as a
Hmm.
medium, and that point you have of like I'm always talking to creators about, meet, you want to meet the audience where they are. You want to get in dialogue with them because
Hmm.
you're trying to help broaden their perspective. But if you don't,
Hmm.
if you don't create some hooks for that to happen, for ways for them to get into it,
Hmm.
you're liable to just have it pass them by. And that insight
Yeah.
that by making something interactive, you are kind of speaking to that.
Hmm.
Um, that ego bounding that we have. And,
Mhm.
it's definitely in America something we're deeply programmed to have,
Mm.
right? Like
Mhm.
the individualistic nature of this society is like
For good or for worse,
for
yes.
good or for worse. I mean, and the bad part being that like people just don't see externalities. Like they don't understand, the ripple effects of their actions. And I kind of feel like
Mm.
this medium, by being interactive and often being involving like multiple tracks, multiple perspectives,
Mhm.
starts to break down that, you know, illusion of onism,
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I also write and illustrate children's books.
mm,
And actually I have one right now that I have some exciting news coming out about it, but I can't really speak to it yet. But yeah, so I write and illustrate children's books, and that I love doing that because it's sort of like getting humans before they're really fully formed. You're getting into their brain and into their heads, and they're reading your book, and you can, in a subtle ways, you can kind of put some of your ideas about life into their brains. And I love that, doing that for children as well. So I really do love working. I would love to do an immersive uh, show for children at some point, but I just haven't
mm,
had that happen.
yeah. Oh, I mean, that's definitely the kid immersive, which sometimes we call it, like, is kind of rare, and in some ways, like rarer than it should be, because they're
Mm,
kind of the perfect audience. I mean, it's a little chaotic, but
mm, mm.
so too are a bunch of you know
There was one, wasn't there? One, I didn't see it, but some of my friends worked on some of the art for it. There was one, I can't remember, about pirates or something.
Yeah, there's been a few things over
Yeah,
the years. I mean, it's
yeah,
it's been the past 2 years have been kind of, funky, right?
yeah, of
So,
course. Nothing.
um,
I didn't do any theater for the last 2 years.
so how does it feel coming back, now that everything's kind of waking back up again?
Well, that's interesting. I didn't think I was going to be doing a theater production right now. I was really focused on books, and I also do, animal rescue and things like that. And like I said, I have this. It's a young adult book that's coming that I'm working on now. And so I wasn't really focusing on that. And then I was speaking to a well-known immersive theater producer in New York City, and he suggested, I asked how he was doing, and he said, hey, maybe you can help me out with something. And we just started talking, and so I decided to bring back the show. He had seen it and loved it, so we talked about bringing it back to see, let's try it now and see how it goes.
Mm,
So it's
yeah.
interesting with COVID, although, I wanted to make we're COVID testing everyone before we come in. So I wanted to make that part of the show and make it fun. So we're going to have S&M nurses testing people before they come in. And we're really keeping it kind of small. Like the Illuminati Ball has had many different versions. It started with 40 people going to a secret location where we would blindfold them and put them on a limo bus and take them to a secret location outside of Manhattan. And there was skinny dipping and fire and dinner, and it was just a crazy night that people loved. But then we started doing bigger versions. We did versions for 1,000 people, and I didn't really like those as much. I mean, it was beautiful and an extravaganza, but you couldn't really be as personal.
Mm,
So I really do like the small ones. So I like that, the fact that we're doing this for 60 people, so it's going to be bringing it back to more the experience that of the first version that we did it, so we can give people personal attention, which is great, because it's with COVID, you don't want as many people, and they are wearing masks. We do give them masks to wear, but they're like these crazy intense beautiful masks and capes, and this is a high ticket price. It's $800 a ticket, but they're getting this dinner, they're getting all this experience. It's very intense. There's a lot of hand holding. In order to buy the tickets, they have to fill out an application and be accepted. And so that's, we have to go through. We definitely go through. I look at every single application. If I'm unsure, I will look people up and research them to find out whether or not, they would be a good fit. So, and then also recently I saw Squid Game. Have you seen it?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was watching Squid Game, I loved it. When I was watching it, I thought, oh, this really reminds me of the Illuminati Ball. Because one thing that I do in this show is I add morality tests to it. So there are really interesting morality tests built into the show, and people receive keys and things like that. They get special experiences based on what they do. And so I saw that and I thought, oh, this is so interesting. Let's do a sort of a Squid Game for the VIPs, because the VIPs are the people who, you know, they're the ones that we really want. Can I swear on this?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. They're the ones we really want to fuck with, you know? So it's like, you know, these people who can afford this ticket, you know, and they love it. Of course they love it. They want to be fucked with, because it's like, you know, everybody loves that. So anyway, like in that way, when it's like a mind fuck that you're getting a crazy experience. So that's where I was thinking, you know, I loved Squid Game, but I thought the VIP part of it wasn't very good. Like the acting wasn't that great, and it wasn't.
Oh yeah. Well, that a lot of that came down to like, you know, like whatever English speaking actors they had running around Korea.
Yeah,
at the time,
and how
right?
they perceive Americans very two-dimensional.
Oh yeah,
You know?
which honestly can feel like a little honest at times. It's like, yeah, you know,
Yeah, a little bit honest. Yeah,
we kind of are
two-dimensional. That's true. Yeah, Americans can.
We're a bunch of disgusting pigs, and it's true. You know.
Yeah. Oh, don't say anything bad about pigs. Pigs are beautiful.
That's true. That's true. I forgot.
I love it. You know, I actually have pet pigs.
Yeah.
I have 2 rescue pigs here. And I rescue animals. I rescue pigeons, and I always try to incorporate my animals into the shows too.
Wait, so you rescue? Hold on, you rescue pigeons? Like
I rescue pigeons. Yes.
How does that? This sounds like you know, petit bourgeois. Like whoa, huh? How does that work? But like, actually, curious how does rescuing a pigeon work? Because pigeons are, I will say, like, I will defend the honor of pigeons. Pigeons are awesome because pigeons are survivors who can like handle these like stupid human environments that have, you know, right, and yet they endure.
They do. They are amazing. I used to raise doves. I used to put them in my paintings and photograph them. I would make these Renaissance type paintings. I did them for magazines like Rolling Stone and New York Times and New Yorker. I did all these paintings for a while. I was a pretty well-known illustrator for a while. I haven't been really doing that so much. I do it a little bit, but I would make these paintings, and then they were 3-dimensional, and then I would put my doves in these little cages inside the heart or something like that. And it was also bringing life to the painting. So I mean, you could look online if anyone's interested. If you just search by my name, you'll find these paintings all over the place. But with 3-dimensional objects within, like I did one for Rolling Stone of Jimi Hendrix, and he had an actual Stratocaster as his spine, and you could play it. And like his chest was open, and it was a Stratocaster, and you could plug it in and play it. And and Jan Wenner bought that from Rolling Stone because he liked it. But so like I've been doing these really interactive things for a long time, and but anyway, I lost track of what I was talking about. What were you even talking about?
Pigeons, rescuing pigeons.
Oh, pigeons. Okay.
Yeah.
So the pigeons so when I was doing working with pigeons, I do animal rescue. And, you know, the first thing people brought me were pigeons, you know, baby pigeons that they found. So I had 2 pigeons that I was taking care of. And then they had babies and they were happy. And then more people were bringing me pigeons, and people would call me. I have this pigeon, it needs help. And I am a pigeon expert. I have about 100 pigeons here. They live, I have an outdoor cage. I live in New York City. I also have a place outside the city on some land. And the pigeons fly free by day, and then they come back. I taught them to home. So they come back to their home and go inside, and the door closes at night, so nothing can get to them. So I rescue pigeons, mostly from New York City. So I have some people who, when they find pigeons in New York City that are sick or injured, they will rehabilitate them, and then they come here to live out their lives.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing.
And they're all homing pigeons. So I could fly them back and forth with notes to you if you're in New York City.
That's legitimately fantastic.
It's really strange. I love pigs. I have 2 pigs, and I rescue a lot of animals. Animals are my passion. And but the pigeons were in the Speakeasy Dollhouse show. Pigeons are it's an Italian thing. My grandfather lived in the Bronx, and they had pigeons on the roof. It's a thing that they did. So I'm kind of upholding the Italian tradition of the pigeons, raising pigeons, teaching them to home. It's in my blood.
I love it. It's fantastic. It's such it's so, you get to do all of this different stuff. You get to, and you don't do it half-heartedly. You know, like at all. Like it's just like full heart to the maximum, and that reads in the work as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do really care, and I really try to put my best into everything I do. I'm a perfectionist, and I can be a little hard to work with sometimes, but But I'm a big collaborator too. If someone works well with me and they're also very conscientious and hardworking, then we'll get along great.
That's awesome. The next iteration of the ball, which is going to be for just 60 people, is coming up on April 9th. And you said you weren't expecting necessarily to be doing work at this time, but you've got the YA book coming, but are you eyeing any more Speakeasy Dollhouse immersive production to return as sort of the world grinds back to whatever the new normal is going to be?
I think with this show, it's sort of a test run. We have this new space that we're in, and there really hasn't been a show in it. It's an amazing space, and it's perfect for this show. It's pretty weird, and it's very surreal. But so if it goes well, then maybe this will continue there. But we're kind of doing this as a trial to see how it goes.
Yeah.
To see what happens with COVID, to see how it works within this new environment. So it's sort of a test run. So we'll see. And, I'm happy to possibly license it and move on to something else too. I love creating new things. And, I guess I'll announce my news is that this young adult book that I wrote is being taken on by the producer who did Enchanted for Disney.
Oh, wow.
And they want to make it into an animated feature film. So
nice.
So that's really exciting. And I actually just finished writing it, and I did the test. It's a graphic novel too. And it's my favorite story I've ever written. I just love it. It's about animals and life and death and the circle of life. It's just a really intense, beautiful story. And so I'm really excited that I've always loved animation. So I'm not doing the animation, but I love the idea of someone taking this on and making this into an animated film, which is very exciting. And, we still are, my agent and we still haven't even found a publisher for this yet. This happened pretty suddenly. So that's very exciting. So I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm not sure where I'll be. They also want me to do another Minky Woodcock book in the series. And so that's another thing. So yeah, I'm all over the place.
I got a feeling by the end of it all, we'll see it all. And I
do actually, when I say I'm going to do something, I end up doing it.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Like, I'm not the kind of person who says, oh, I might do this thing. It might take me some time, but I end up doing it eventually.
But it gets done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I also don't think we're going to be, even if the other projects keep you away for a while, I very much doubt that Speakeasy Dollhouse, that new things won't emerge.
We have for many years been talking about getting our own venue for Speakeasy Dollhouse. And it is something I would love to do. I would love to have my own speakeasy in Manhattan. That could be something that's one thing I've never really had, was having my own space that was, and I think that kind of held us back a little bit, because, a lot of times I'm using all these beautiful, crazy spaces, but then I got to deal with the beautiful, crazy people who are involved with them. So yeah. I would love to have my own speakeasy place, and I'm in a position where I could probably do that. I just realized that it would take up a lot of my time, and
running a venue is no joke. So
no, I realize how much of a production that is, and with the animal care I do and the books and everything, I'm not in a position to do that, but it is something that I would love to do, and I probably will eventually have a place in New York City called Speakeasy Dollhouse.
Well, I look forward to that day. Cynthia von Buhler, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Longtime NoPro listeners know Andrew Hoepfner as the creator of Houseworld and co-creator of Whisper Lodge. This past year, he opened his latest project in New York City, the long-gestating Bottom of the Ocean, inside the Gymnopedie venue in the Bushwick neighborhood of Brooklyn. I wish I was there right now to talk with him. We could be hanging out in person. Andrew, it's good to have you on the show.
Wonderful to be here, Noah. I'm a longtime fan.
Oh, I'm a longtime fan of yours as a human being. I have not, aside from Whisper Lodge, I haven't gotten to experience anything you've done, but I did get to experience Whisper Lodge when you brought it out here to LA with Melinda.
That's a
And
third of it.
yeah, so it's a third. I've gotten to check out a third of your work. And given the reaction to Bottom of the Ocean, I think maybe I'm going to get a chance at some point to see that, I hope. Tell us about Bottom of the Ocean. What is this thing you've made?
In Bottom of the Ocean, 5 people enter uh, a hidden underworld in Bushwick, and they are led by spirit guides through a sequence of rituals that we've invented. There's some catharsis, there's some introspection, and ultimately we help our visitors to dive into the self.
Nice. You've been working on this for a while. Obviously, the pandemic's played a
Stretched
role
it
in
out.
stretched it out. But I think I remember, I think maybe even like Catherine got a chance to see like an early version of it. And that was like before she moved to LA. Like, she was done
Right.
like
It was
grad school.
August 2018.
Yeah. So what led you to create this show? Because House World had this kind of anarchic, weird house party vibe thing to it, from what Zay always told me about it. Zay, our original New York curator, and then
Right.
Whisper
That's
Lodge.
accurate.
Yeah, Whisper Lodge had this. It's this beautiful meditative, um, clockwork mechanism that maybe, I don't know, it's like 10, a dozen people go into at a time. I feel like I can't remember how many people, but I think a little bit more than 5. You've tightened up and gotten into this really intimate space. What's led you going in this direction?
It just kind of became a combination of a bunch of things that I was interested in. One thing was, after doing the 3-month venue stint of House World and doing the long weeks or long weekends of Whisper Lodge, I just became convinced that I needed to be able to stay put, and I needed to really be able to work on the sets inside of the space, and I also needed to be able to like really craft scenes and spend some time writing them, executing them, and then editing, rehearsing, and then re-executing them. And so that's a big reason why we're doing Bottom of the Ocean. I'm also interested in sound baths, and so Bottom of the Ocean started as this sort of brainstorm of what sequence would people go through if they were headed towards a sound bath. I'm also I wanted to get back into the fantastical after Whisper Lodge. Whisper Lodge was, we wanted to be really faithful to ASMR. And so a lot of the like fantasy and high energy stuff and comic stuff, we sort of had to set aside. And what else? I was also a church musician for many years. And so I spent a lot of time seeing ceremonies that I didn't fully identify with, but sort of maybe daydreaming about what my sorts of rituals and ceremonies would be. So those are some reasons.
Let's unpack that last one there a bit. This idea of rituals and ceremonies and sort of finding ones that have meaning to you. How'd that journey
Mhm.
go?
Well, I think, the things that keep me away from some of the things that keep me away from Christianity are the thoughts like, I don't believe in the virgin birth. I don't believe that if I believe in Jesus, when I die, I'm going to go to heaven. I don't believe these things. So I can't participate in communion, or I can't really like buy into baptism. But yet there's also things about that, whether it's like gathering with other humans, or even if it's just sort of like the fun of the symbols of like, oh, it's this chalice of wine and it's this special solemn moment we have with it. There are things that I still want to do, but like I can't, because the hard to believe or like the archaic parts of Christianity get in the way. So I tried to, for some of the scenes in Bottom of the Ocean, I'm trying to sort of strip away the religious stuff and leave the cool stuff in the ritual.
Mm. Well, what do you? I mean, obviously, the gathering is part of it, but what do you feel like as a person you get out of ritual if it's
Mm.
disconnected from the the narrative side, if you will, of of a religion?
Right. Well, like
I did not expect us to go here, but like here we are, you know. Welcome to
right.
NoPro. It's like, oh hey, let's have a religious studies discussion. Let's go for it.
Absolutely. I mean, each ritual in the show is designed to do something different. And so to take a familiar one, like we have our own confession, right? And the purpose of a confession is to get something off your chest and tell it to another living person. And so we offer that without, the like sin or like the concept of Christian sin. And then in another ritual, we dress up the people in our show. And so, first of all, there's this functional aspect of like you're in our world now, so you're in our magic circle. But there's also like a lyric like I'm always changing. I'm changing into myself, and so it's sort of a contemplation on identity and change and the gradual, inevitable process of transformation. I find it's helpful to like check in on that in sort of a heightened environment.
Now, I know one of the more difficult things has been finding a venue to work in. That's true in any city. It's definitely true in New York and LA. So, talk to me about, not only do you have a venue, but the venue has like a name and identity, and this is a spot you've got. Tell us about you getting your hands on Gymnopedie.
Right. I mean, it's really hard. Obviously, it's great to perform immersive theater in big cities because that's where the audiences are that might be able to sustain them. But to rent a property or buy a property in Los Angeles or New York City, it costs, thousands of dollars a month, especially like you don't want just like a bare minimum property. You want a cool looking property. And a lot of these shows are expansive. So you want like 6 or 10 or 12 rooms to guide your people through. And my world that I came from was, I was a church musician. I've kind of like gone in and out of being a church piano player my whole life. And during my 20s, I was a musician. And so I would often take advantage of having the keys to a church building and I'd record albums in the church building. And then at one point, I found myself living in a parsonage of Flatbush Reformed Church. And I ended up staging Houseworld there, doing immersive theater rather than recording music. And since then, I've just sort of been searching for underutilized church spaces where maybe I can get a special deal. And churches are kind of like they're just off the grid enough as far as like taxes and building codes and like official negotiations where you can just sort of cut a deal with the elders and the pastor and go down in their basement that in a corner that they're not using it and make something happen. And so that's what we're doing in Gymnopedie. We do the show and we host music videos and fashion shoots and short films and stuff. And the church's mission is supported through all of it.
Now, how do you have like a lease on the space for X amount of time? Like, how long do you know you're going to be able to keep on creating work there?
We did have an agreement starting in 2018, and it is now just evaporated into an informal understanding between me and the church elders and the pastor. And I would, if I felt like I'd be better served by a signed contract, I would, but I almost think that we're both more comfortable just being on friendly terms with one another. So that's where it's at. But basically, like they're happy, we're happy, and it seems like our stay there is open-ended.
That's fantastic. It is interesting to me that sort of, particularly in New York, there's a pattern of, churches sort of being absolutely integral to the survival of the indie immersive scene.
Right. Then she fell.
Yeah, like not a lot of people recognize that, like, Kingsland Ward was actually like the rectory of the church that was next door that just wasn't being used.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
I think Beloved Departed or whatever by Link Dance Theater was in the same church that what was it? What's the company that did K-pop?
Ars Nova.
Ars Nova, but they worked with the Immersive
Woodshed.
Woodshed Collective. So
Yeah.
Woodshed did a piece in that same church.
Yeah. No, it's maybe it's just there's like the density of churches in New York, or just like the long relationship between the arts and religious institutions in New York. You know, you've got
Right.
get an extra century into a city and things get a little different.
Right. I have some guesses as to why it wouldn't work quite the same way in Los Angeles. I think we probably both have the same guesses, but
Oh,
it works.
what's your take?
You know, just that it's a newer city,
Yeah.
like you said, the century, and so like the churches, they're probably like less beautiful, and maybe they're like more built for like contemporary Christianity versus these churches that were built as like community hubs. So they have this much more expansive and older, more beautiful sorts of properties.
Yeah.
And there's more of them.
Yeah, there's more of them, and like the car culture here, you know, definitely like has an impact. It's sort of funny because like there is a degree to which, say, you know, the Foursquare churches of Amy Semper McPherson have a whole like experiential theater vibe to them, like in a real way, and when I mean more just a pure theatrical vibe to them when you kind of dig into like her history and like the way those setups were, and that's just there in Echo Park.
Right. I have no idea what you're alluding to there, but I'd love to know more about that.
It's super worth researching.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's very storied. It actually, a character loosely based on her was a major figure in the Perry Mason HBO show they did like last year or the year before that. The last 2 years have blurred into 1 year, so like I can't tell. I can never remember what's in 2020, what's in 2021. You know, like last year, you know, the never ending year. It's like a never ending story, but there's no giant flying dog dragon thing.
There is the nothing.
There is the nothing, though. Yes, there's very much the nothing. You know, there are people screaming Atreyu into the abyss. What's it been? How's it been getting work back on its feet in this age of madness?
It's been amazing. I'm so happy right now. I feel like I'm in one of those moments where I'm living my purpose, and it's just been this gradual process of just stacking up 100 things or maybe 500 things, and everything is just making our world a little richer and a little tighter and more complete. And like we see the rewards in the reactions of our audience, and we see the rewards in how much we enjoy the show as performers.
That's got to be like a big part of it, is just getting back into the groove of performing again.
Right. It's like riding a bike, you know, like I was really curious about what that first show or what those first few shows would feel like in June of 2021. And it kind of feels like you never left.
Nice. And you have actually like expanded the number of shows you do in a week, if memory serves, right?
That is true. Tomorrow we are opening up our first Wednesday matinees. And so that brings us up to 11 shows per week. And we're going to bring in, this is a NoPro exclusive. We're starting Tuesday matinees for sure in April.
Oh, wow.
And then we may complete our calendar with 1 p.m. Saturday shows. So that'd be 3 Saturday shows. And then we'll call it a full schedule. But I'm not sure if we're going to, like 3 shows might be crazy.
Yeah. But also like what time are your Tuesday matinees?
4:30. So, you know, they're for tourists and they're for people who have unconventional work schedules, which are more and more, you know, it's a growing population.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a whole, so, and you're having, and clearly if you're expanding, you're not having trouble booking these out.
Yeah. It's pretty dope. Like, I know that it seems like super small, like, oh, no one's going to see Andrew's new show because it's 5 people at a time. But
if you're doing, what is it, 11 shows a week?
We're 11 now and maybe up to 13. So that's going to be 65 people a week. And so we could, if we complete the year, the goal now is to get to Christmas, right? And we might even go beyond Christmas. It's still gestating. But if we make it to Christmas, we'll have performed Boto for about like 2,700 people, which will be more than House World and Whisper Lodge put together.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And we might go beyond that. We might keep it open into 2023, and definitely we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see the plan.
And it's all it's all sustainable. It's all sketched out to be sustainable.
It's sustainable. Like up until now, like Boto was supported by the music videos and fashion shoots and dance videos that happen on our set when we're not there, or happen in the back third of the venue these days.
Mm-hmm.
But we are getting to a point where Boto itself will start to turn a profit. Maybe this month will be the first month.
That's exciting. It's like, I'll pry. Like, did House World ever hit that point, or was House World
no
break
way?
Even, or? Yeah.
I think House World, it lost like $16,000
or
yeah. I mean, like I put my life savings into it, and I think it cost like 90 grand to do, but
wow.
We ended up 16 grand in the hole. And I think Whisper Lodge eventually, like it got, I think it made a profit. I think it got in the black. I'm not sure if it did when I was there, but it was, it was very like, the money it's bringing in was inconsequential while I was there.
Right.
It's like lunch money.
Yeah. But at least from that one, it definitely, it established Melinda as a force. So
totally. It's absolutely worthwhile.
Yeah. And then and clearly House World and then Whisper Lodge, established, the House World label leading to
Yes.
Bottom of the Ocean. And now here you guys are,
Yes.
getting a show into the black. So it's not a short road, because the first House World was what, like 2016, 2015?
Our first show was November 22nd, 2014, the very first House World. Yeah. And so I've been at this for
dark times,
7
like
years.
In a sincere way. Yeah.
Totally. And yeah, that's that.
Yeah. It's a long road. It's a long road. It's not an easy road. Has it been worth it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like maybe right now I'm looking at my life's purpose as remounting House World. That's what's come into focus in these last few months. And everything that I learned from the first time of House World and the improvisational open world of House World, I kept with me. And everything I learned from, the guided performance of Whisper Lodge and the meditative, like sensory ASMR performance, I took with me. And now making this long-term show and doing something that's kind of like a hybrid between the two, I'm taking with me. And I want to bring it back to the House World show, where we've got like 35 audience, 20 performers. It's open world. It's semi-improvisational. High energy, low energy, dark mood, light mood, comic, serious, transcendent. And in like 2024, 2025, I want to remount like a House World that's going to be bigger than all these shows. It's going to be a more elaborate production than all of these shows.
Well,
that's the goal.
We're going to keep an eye on that, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed for that exact outcome. Andrew, if folks want to take a chance on getting a ticket, because I know getting them are difficult, how do people try and get themselves into Bottom of the Ocean?
Tickets come out every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And you can get on the mailing list to get a reminder. You can get on the wait list. The wait list, we don't have many tickets for the wait list right now, but that might change. And there's also a Boto lottery where every 2 weeks we're giving away 5 $10 tickets to 3 winners. Those are the ways. Boto.nyc is the address.
All right. Well, Andrew Hoepfner, is always a pleasure to talk with you. And again, I wish we could be doing this in person, because that also would mean I would have a chance at catching Boto.
Right. Maybe, maybe we'll get you out here soon enough, Noah.
The travel will happen. I don't know how. But I feel like I will not be not traveling this year. I'm really not sure how it's going to come together, but I have some degree of faith. So, Andrew, it's always good to talk to you.
Great to talk to you, Noah.
Once again, I want to thank Cynthia and I want to thank Andrew for being our guests on the show this week. After a couple of weeks of having shorter shows, it's nice to be back in the, a little over an hour zone. And it's really great to be able to talk about a couple of live immersive theater pieces in New York City. So it's exciting as we get back into the groove of things. As you know, like, we're not out of the woods yet when it comes to the pandemic. I'm laughing because I'm nervous all the time about this stuff. A lot of my mom is old and has a lot of medical issues, and so I got to be on my P's and Q's when it comes to navigating in the world, so that I don't bring something home to her. So. These things matter. We're always thinking about the holistic effect. In the same breath, oh my goodness, we really do live for immersive theater here. We love all the immersive stuff. We love the escape games. We love the metaversal, but our heart. Our first love is always going to be the immersive theater, particularly the spectacular and the intimate and the strange. So, and we got to talk about all that this time out. I hope you enjoyed the interviews as much as I did. And I wish I would not hit this microphone with my face. Sorry about that. If you heard the tap a second ago. That's it. That's it for the show this week. I want to give a big shout out again to our newest sustaining backer, Chris Woolman. I also want to thank all our sustaining backers. And here I'll read the whole list down. So Chris's name again: Ari Hurston, Chris Woolman, Deborah Robinson, Elaine, Jay Bushman, Jerome Joseph Gentes, David Bassek, Lonnie Hanson, Mark Baltazar, Samuel Mystery, Sydney Guillory, and Jan Budman. Thank you all so much. You keep us going and make all the schemes possible. Patreon.com/NoProscenium if you want to make the schemes possible. This is the 333rd episode of this show. That's incredible. And I know we're going to make it to 350. Let's get us to 400. Let's get us beyond. I'm it's hard to be optimistic in this particular timeline, but I got to say, I'm starting, at least on our little corner of the world, to feel pretty optimistic about the future of all of this immersive work. Our magic is strong. Our magic is strong. I'll leave it at that. Okay. Hope to see a lot of you at the book club. I'm sure I'll see a few of you around South by Southwest as well, virtually in my case. I won't be there physically, but hopefully be chatting with folks. Maybe we might even do some stuff in the Discord for the South by Southwest folks. If you are going to South by Southwest, give us a shout in our Discord, in the general channel, and we'll open something up. We'll get some meetups going on virtually for everybody. How about that? Book club coming up on the 15th. The DIY seminar, the DIY publicity seminar. Sorry, I'm recording this late at night for me because I've got workmen coming to the house tomorrow and I got to do this early. So it's a little more kabobble than usual. So the DIY publicity seminar, which is a version of a thing we've done before, which had like 30 people come to it. all at once. This time out, we're going to limit the class size to 10 folks so we can get a lot more back and forth with everybody. It's going to be a wee bit pricier. Well, we were giving the last one away for like $2, so it's going to be a lot pricier, but it's worth it. We were giving away the store last year. This time, we're going to do that. And if it's enough of a success, we'll bring it out some more. We're starting to plan more of this sort of stuff. We've got a lot of knowledge here. We want to share it with people. We want to get people ready to make more and better work. So that's coming up. And also the AMA with Tara. And we've also got a forum that's being scheduled right now. More details on that probably next week, all of which is coming up this month. And there's going to be more next month, including we're starting to work on a walkabout mini golf tourney. Why? Because we can. And also because there's a bunch of maps based on Labyrinth that are going to be coming in to Walkabout over the summer. And when I mentioned that on social media the other day, I found a whole interesting cross-section of people who all love Walkabout mini golf who are in our community. And I'm like, oh, let's go play together. So keep your eyes peeled for that as well. All right. The associate producer of No Proscenium is Parker Sella. The music for No Proscenium is by Chris Porter of the Speakeasy Society. Special thanks to Siobhan O'Loughlin for voicing our intro. The headlines are done by Catherine Yu, our executive editor. And this monstrosity is all my fault. I'm Noah Nelson. And until next time, seriously, thank you for continuing to wear the mask.